My name's Amy and I would like to share my testimony with you as to why I was involved in the Love Makes a Way movement here in Adelaide. Unfortunately, I was unable to share my testimony this morning, so I hope that you've got some time to listen to it. My name's Amy Bradshaw. I'm a 25-year-old student currently studying a double degree of social sciences and psychology at the University of South Australia. I also work as a private nanny and I'm a casual staff member at Windy Point Restaurant, as well as a volunteer for the Activate Faith community and Welcome to Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to briefly share with you the reasoning behind why I find myself in the position that I am. On Monday the 23rd of June, I was arrested at Jamie Briggs's office along with eight fellow faith followers. We arrived at 10 a.m, politely explained that we were seeking an answer to when the 983 children would be released from detention and processed safely in the community. After remaining in the office, sitting on the floor and staying out of the way, at 5:30 we were asked to leave for the first time. We politely stated that we intended on staying unless our question was answered, and shortly after that we were arrested and charged with trespassing. 7 members of this group were dealt with last week on Wednesday at the Mount Barker courts, and the magistrate allowed them to go without conviction or penalty. I accept that I broke the law. I do not dispute my charges, and apart from this action, I am a law-abiding citizen who respects the law. I participated in this act mindfully with an acute awareness of the potential consequences of my action. But I was compelled to act because of my commitments, my faith, and my concern for the way our nation is currently treating asylum seeker children. I am a nanny, and I'm so privileged to play a role in the lives of many children where I'm able to care for them, watch them grow and develop quirky personalities, express themselves imaginatively and creatively, laugh and build friendships. I grew up in a family where I was loved unconditionally, had limitless opportunities that have followed through to my adulthood, and I was taught to stand by the marginalised and to stand for what I knew to be right. Recently, psychiatrist Dr. Peter Young released evidence at a human rights inquiry with startling facts, accounts and personal opinions regarding the conditions in offshore processing such as Manus Island, Christmas Island, Nauru, where asylum seeker children and families currently live, some children living as unaccompanied minors. In reference to the treatment and conditions of asylum seekers in detention, he stated, "If we take the true definition of torture to be the deliberate harming of people, I think it does fulfill that definition." I would like to read you a letter from a 12-year-old boy living on Christmas Island with his family. I don't know who is reading this letter, but I know that maybe you can help me. We are staying in detention for 9 months now. We survived that bloody ocean because God willing, and now we can't be free because of politics. We are passing very difficult moments here. Here, people do food strikes, lips and eyes sewing, suicide and many other terrible events. I hate my situation. Now it's about 1 year me and my brother haven't gone to a real school, and we are so sad. We are not useless people. There are many qualified and educated people in here, and when I grow up I want to be a pilot. I can hear my mother. She cries every night in bed calmly, but I can still hear her because our room is 6 cubic metres and the 4 of us must sleep in the one room very close to each other. My father's hairs are growing grey. He smokes or sleeps all the time. I've never seen him like this, so broken and depressed. He was a truck driver and I was always proud of him, but now. My little brother and other children play with soil, sands and limestones from morning until night. We have no entertainment in detention in Christmas Island. I wish we could have our house and my father had a truck and my mother could cook me delicious food. We could go to school and sometimes we could go to the park, the movies, a restaurant, swimming pool and shopping. I miss doing all of these things and I really miss riding my bike. Please help us to be free. Thank you. This is why I partook in the action that I did, because I want to be someone who hears this boy's voice and acts out of compassion for him and his family and believes in the dreams that he has for himself. There's currently a conversation amongst our nation's leaders about sending asylum seeker families to Cambodia for resettlement, which seems much more like a harsh and intentional punishment than it does a resolution. I have been to Cambodia on several occasions and I continue to visit my friends and communities there. Cambodia is a nation drenched in poverty, where millions of people live on main streets and own nothing. One of my earliest memories visiting Cambodia is a family of 11 people living on the streets, and they owned 3 large carpets, and they called this home. Sadly, this is an extremely common situation for Khmer people in Cambodia. I can't seem to fathom that Australia, being a wealthy, leaded, educated nation, we think it's logical, helpful or moral to send asylum seekers to a country already dealing with so much poverty and injustice for itself. Just this week we heard in the media from Alistair Nicholson, the chairman of Children's Rights International, stating that Cambodia is a very poor country and a country with enormous problems. The concept of sending children there, especially unaccompanied children, is indescribable and almost as bad as policy. He furthered on to say, Cambodia is a country where there is a lot of exploitation of children and a tremendous amount of child abduction. The law is not effective in protecting even its own children. You don't adopt a policy of treating those who are seeking asylum extremely cruelly. That's not the behaviour of a civilised nation, and we're supposed to be a civilised nation. My intention is not to sit here in ignorance to the complexity of the asylum seeker issue. However, I do stand and believe that as the lucky nation that we are, we not only have the capacity, but a moral responsibility to adhere to policies and treatment of all people that upholds their basic human rights in which they are born with. I also believe as a nation we have a moral and legal obligation to maintain the integrity and respect of all people, especially children. Our nation is in a time of making history, and I'm afraid that my children will look back and ask me if I knew that children and families were subject to such cruel and inhumane treatment. We are a nation currently facing a moral dilemma. At this stage, I am desperate to play even a small role in the calling Australia back to a place of compassion and moral compass. I want to be a nation of hope and refuge, a place where we don't fear the stranger, where we use our privilege to be generous and open to diversity and enriching culture. I believe as a young Christian woman, I have a duty to be a part of building this nation based on those values. If I could take just a few more brief moments from your time, I would like to share some stories from offshore processing detention camps. The stories were gathered when the National Inquiry into Children in Immigration Detention took place this year in 2014. It reported detailed conditions such as those imposed on a 13-year-old girl who only had 2 pairs of knickers and only one which she could use while she was on her period. She felt shame because she was an adolescent girl and each day she had to wash her underwear and hang them in front of her father and family, which was not culturally acceptable. She went for months without additional underwear, despite multiple written requests. There was another incident where a local security officer witnessed the sexual assault of an 8-year-old male child by other males while they were standing in line for the toilet, and in a public view which included 2 adult males touching the child in the groin and other people in the line laughing at him. Your Honour, we are breaking people, and our current policies are subjecting innocent children to shame and to trauma. The detention and inhumane conditions in which people are living is a clear-cut and what I believe to be avoidable way to severely damage children. For this reason, I was compelled to partake in Love Makes a Way. As a psychology student, I have a huge interest in mental health, and to be honest, as a human being, I'm distressed by these accounts and believe we are setting up children for a very sad future indeed. As a Christian woman, I believe in justice and I believe in peace. And I believe with our individuals standing for it, our nation's leaders might well forget what's important. This week, our government has committed to releasing all of 150 children under the age of 10 and their families into the community and out of mainland processing centres. However, our Immigration Minister, Scott Morrison, was quoted in the Herald Sun. The plan to release children from detention would not be extended to those children currently detained in offshore processing because that would remove the deterring to people smuggling, which sounds much more like we are using children as examples and human shields rather than wanting to protect children and promote safety for them. The news is deceptive, as there will still be hundreds of children remaining in offshore processing, where reports of psychological damage have been reported, haunting stories of children being threatened, intimidated, sexually abused, referred to by their boat ID numbers, and self-harming. The children that I know and care for, these concepts are foreign to their innocent yet explorative minds. If this was our children, we would fiercely not accept this treatment. I must add, the evening I was arrested, my arresting officer was respectful and informative. He ensured my comfort at all times, which for me drew an even greater defined contrast between my own comfort and the discomfort of children and families in detention who have committed no crime. I hope I have clearly presented the reasons behind why I took this action. The reasons that compelled me to act are the same reasons that I would ask you to consider. Should I read a bit about my conviction? Entering a conviction into my permanent record. My intention with my study and my paid and volunteer work is to prepare me for a career working with people within the human services, and I'm concerned about what this would do to my future. Thank you for your time to listen to my submission, and I can only hope that my reasoning behind my actions is clear. For me, given my background and my work with children, it's quite simple. Children are not meant to be used as pawns in a political game or to be means to make an example out of.